We'll call to order the regular meeting for the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, November 13th, 2012. We will start with an invocation from Pastor Dennis McGowan of the Living Room Ministries International, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Hartman. If you'd all stand, please.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day, and we thank you, Father, for the occasion of this meeting. We pray and ask that you would give divine supervision to our supervisors and that we would accomplish exactly what you would have us to do. Thank you, God, for your love and for your grace. Thank you for our city, for our county. We just pray for all of our government officials that you would lead them as you would see fit. We pray these in the name that's above all names. Amen.
Please join me in the salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Supervisor Hartman. Next order of business is the public comment period. If you come forward, you're asked to please give your name. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be limited to the matters within the jurisdiction of the board. Pursuant to the Brown Act, action or board discussion cannot be taken on open time matters other than to receive the comments and, if deemed necessary, defer the subject matter for the appropriate follow-up. I do have a number of people wish to speak this morning. We will start with Helen Chambers, followed by Jane Steinhurst.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Helen Chambers, and I'm a volunteer with Charity Trail of Trees. I'd like to inform the board about this collective nonprofit effort taking place in Shasta County. And I'd like to invite you to come out to the Mount Shasta Mall to see for yourself this Saturday between 4 and 7 when Santa arrives and Charity Trail of Trees gets underway. There will be lots of activities for children and families. Last year, if you visited the Mount Shasta Mall, you will have seen the trees, the vignettes on display. They're beautiful, whimsical vignettes sprinkled throughout the mall. That was the first year of Charity Trail of Trees, and we're hoping that it becomes a Shasta County tradition for several years to come. Charity Trail of Trees is the inspiration of Sandra Wilson. She's a licensed marriage therapist and executive director of Family Dynamics Resource Center in Redding. And Sandra's been one of those frontline therapists in the trenches working with children and families who've experienced adverse childhood experiences. And I, too, am a clinician working for Shasta County Health and Human Services. And we know that children's emotional wounds left unaddressed can lead to troubled, unhealthy, unproductive lives of these children as they grow into adulthood. But the good news is that we do have evidence-based practices that are proven to be effective, and we can help heal these children and their families, but many families can't afford these services. So even with only nominal fees as these nonprofits stretch themselves to serve as many children and families as they can, there's not enough funds. So that's where Charity Trail of Trees comes in. 7 nonprofit agencies that serve Shasta County children and family are represented by Charity Trail of Trees. And they include Northern Valley Catholic Social Services, Shasta Family Justice Center, Visions of the Cross, Family Dynamics Resource Center, and a few more. And we're inviting community-minded business sponsors to join some established sponsors like Redding Radio. They've given a tremendous amount of support to us over the past 2 years. North Valley Bank, again, tremendous support. Express Pros, Linda L. Century, our family law specialist. And we want to thank them for demonstrating their solid support for Shasta County families and their involvement in being a part of a collective solution in Charity Trail of Trees. 100% of the proceeds are all donations are going directly to funding service for children right here in our community. And community members can donate by going to charitytrailoftrees.org or at Redding branches of North Valley Bank, as well as at participating retailers in the Mount Shasta Mall. And at these locations, contributors receive colorful paper ornaments, and you each have some, of Charities. She's our little heroine whose story is told in the book, which you also have, Charity's Trail of Trees. And these will be given out at the Mount Shasta Mall also opening day Saturday. We provide you copies, and I just want to just invite you to come out, and we're hoping to make Shasta County tradition, this Charity Trail of Trees. We want to benefit the community year-round. It'll be a Christmas display, but the funds benefit year-round. So $1, $10 or more, 1 hour of volunteering, 10 or 100, bit by bit, person by person, we can help. And again, I just want to thank you for this time and invite you to come out this Saturday between 4 and 7 and see the healing that's underway, the Foundation for Good Families in Shasta County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Jane Steinhurst, followed by Jane Bailey.
Good morning. My name is Jane Steinhurst. I'm an employee of the Shasta County Environmental Health Department and have been a Shasta County employee for 35 years. I started working for Shasta County in 1977, then left the area for a few months before coming back, and I've been with Environmental Health since then. I'm one of the first faces seen by the public when they visit our office. I like being able to present a positive and friendly image to our customers and visitors. A large part of my job involves working with the public. I enjoy working with people and being able to help them. I work with a variety of people, including homeowners, contractors and developers, and business owners. I do my best to make sure that everyone leaves our office satisfied that they were treated politely and respectfully and have obtained all the information they need, even if they may not like the answers they've received. I'm a member of the Shasta County General Unit. We have been working without a contract since May. During our last negotiation, our unit voluntarily offered to pay the 7% PERS contribution to help balance the budget and maintain county services. Between this and the rising cost of insurance, my take-home pay has decreased by over $300 a month. This has been extremely difficult as I am the sole source of income for my household. I know that you can't do anything to help with the cost of insurance, but you can help restore the 7% that we have given up. I've always considered myself lucky to have a county job, but it has been a real struggle the last couple of years. I'm able to pay my bills and maintain my household, but all money for extras is gone. Vacations are a thing of the past. We can no longer even get away for the weekend. My savings is gone. We used to go out for dinner occasionally, but that is something that I just don't have money for anymore. I can't even take my granddaughter out to the movies. What I am here for today is to ask you to please consider in closed session the mediation scheduled for tomorrow and to direct your representative to work with our mediator to find a way to help restore the 7% decrease that we have given up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steinhurst. Jane Bailey, followed by Nancy Young.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ditto on what Jane has just said. I've been here 35 years working for Shasta County, and I've seen a lot of changes, some good, some not so good. And it's been a difficult time for all of us. I know when you guys go into mediation tomorrow, I want you to consider there are families, there are faces behind these numbers you're going to be looking at. I've been proud to work for Shasta County for 35 years. And consider that the 7% that we gave up was to maintain county services. So thank you very much. And think about us tomorrow when you go into mediation.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Nancy Young, followed by Larry Young.
My name is Nancy Young, and I live out in Happy Valley on Happy Valley Road. Our house was foreclosed on, which was fine with us. We didn't care. But we also own a piece of land behind the half acre that our house sat on. The realtor sent somebody out to rekey our home, the house. And while he was there, he went out on the back piece of property and cut 2 locks on a shop and a van. And my husband caught him out there at noon, called the sheriff's department, and wanted to make a citizen's arrest. The sheriff's department came out to the house and refused to make the arrest. We had a welder that turned up missing in an hour's time between 11 And the time my husband returned to the property at 12, a welder came up missing. The locksmith was the only person that we know of that was on the property. We told the sheriff that. The sheriff's department called him a liar. When he went in to make a report, they refused to take a report on it. And he was also told not to phone or come back to the sheriff's office for any reason at all, that they would arrest him immediately. I got home before the sheriff's department left. After they left at around 12:30 or somewhere around in there, I went into a travel trailer that we were putting things into so we could live in it. There was a plastic bag laying on the bed that had a leather jacket in it. The leather jacket was missing. I called my husband. He said he hadn't touched it. I called the sheriff's department immediately. They had just left the property. At that time, they refused to even come back and check to see if there was fingerprints on the mirror or around the closet door, or check where he had entered into the travel trailer. When he went out, he relocked it as if nobody had been in there. The following morning, I went to vacuum. My vacuum, brand new Dyson, was missing, and an $1,800 knife set that was sitting in the kitchen area of this trailer. They were missing. Altogether, that's about $3,500 worth of property we had missing. The sheriff still wouldn't come out and take fingerprints, which were available at that time. They do have the plastic sack that was over the jacket. They have the ticket that was with the jacket, and they are still refusing to do anything about it. They will not take a report. They do not want to give us any kind of satisfaction for this guy being on two pieces of property
Ms. Young,
that
if I could
had
have you-
nothing to do with it.
I'd like to have you sum up. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Young, followed by Dolores Lucero.
Well, I'm Larry Young, and I've lived in Happy Valley since 1950. I went to grade school in Cloverdale. But anyway, she told you just about everything I can, except when I tried to report it, they won't take a report. I've been threatened at least 20 times with arrest for trying to make a report to them. And when I reported what else I'd seen there, why the guy had his back to the sheriff's had his back, a white pickup went by, and he gives them a thumbs up sign, which the sheriff's department didn't see. And that night, I got to thinking now, the guy volunteered to give me 4 locks. He never said he said the bank sent him out there, but when I told him it was private property, he offers me locks. He didn't say the bank sent him out there or anything. He just offered me locks. So why, if he knew that it was private property that he was on, but didn't care. Anyhow, I got to thinking, now he gave me these locks, but he's also got keys to them because they were all keyed alike, so I knew he had keys. Well, about 12:30, 1 o'clock that night, this pickup that I seen comes back out there. And of course, before I could get my clothes on and everything, why, he was gone. And when I reported it to the captain here, he calls me a liar. That was the report they took. So what do we have to do to get some action from the sheriff's department? The DA's office told me I had to go up through the ranks before I come in here, and I did. They didn't like the way I did it, probably, because when I called them, I told them the guy wasn't leaving alive. I didn't have a gun or anything. I don't know how I'd have stopped him. But anyway, it's the only way you can get the sheriff to even answer a call. And when I finally did get to the sheriff and the undersheriff, that's when they ordered me never to call the sheriff's office or go into the sheriff's office again. And we've got no justice whatsoever for the public here. In other words, if you want to steal, you go through the sheriff's office. They won't take a report.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I just would advise that you are allowed to go over and file a formal complaint with the sheriff's office, and you can also contact the grand jury or the state attorney general's office if you're not satisfied with the results you received from the sheriff's office. Dolores Lucero.
Thank you. My name is Dolores Lucero. I live in the city of Shasta Lake. When I hear people come up here and basically express what they've been going through with our sheriff, it's very disappointing because we have the same problem in Shasta Lake. And to hear somebody that, when they report a crime, the sheriff is supposed to take a report. He's actually elected by the people. He works for the people, and it's so disappointing to hear that they're not willing to take reports. And when an incident happens, and yet this is why we have so much crime. Because as the last time I was here, I understand that somebody was shaking their head when I actually mentioned there's actually a retired police officer who is actually growing marijuana, who actually is involved with all the people who in the streets who grow marijuana in his property. They hang their 215 car. That's why we have so much crime. That's why they won't do anything, the sheriff or some of the officers who know what's going on, because they know what's going on, and plus they help each other. That's why we have so much crime. We need to stop this crime by you having these making better decisions, actually enforcing. And I know it's not your job; it's the sheriff. That is where the problem is, because like I said, we have that issues in Shasta Lake. We have hate crime. A woman was held with the gunpoint with her son, and the sheriffs actually they're not willing to do anything. So I actually recommend the couple to file a complaint against the sheriff with the attorney general under public inquiry. So it will be under the sheriff because he's not doing his job. And we cannot continue to have this kind of behavior that, just because they don't want to take the time to make the report. Without the report, they actually can't do anything. Then on top of that, we have the DA who's not also willing to follow through when the reports come in. I actually filed a couple of reports. I have got no response. These people who get elected by the people, I think the people are realizing we need to make a better changes here in the next election when it comes to the sheriff. When the sheriff runs, I hope they don't re-elect him, because we need somebody who's willing to step up and help the people, protect the people. We had officers in the past years and years where they made less money, yet they were willing to protect the people. They make more money, and yet they're not still doing their job to protect the citizens.
Thank you, Ms. Lucero. That's all the speaker requests I have.
In terms of referring this to staff for just further research, I'm sure that staff could confirm that there are in fact thousands of reports that are taken and filed and followed through on by the Sheriff's Department. So anyone in the public, if this is true, Mr. Lees, anyone in the public could actually find that out and confirm for themselves that there are thousands of reports that are taken and followed through on an annual basis, and many, many satisfied. Thank you.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Mr. Lees, how is police protection provided for the city of Shasta Lake?
The city of Shasta Lake has joined into a contract for law enforcement services with the Shasta County Sheriff's Department. That is actually their choice. They can, certainly have their own, since they are an incorporated city, they certainly could have their own police department. But I know that they've been more than pleased with the level of service that they've received from Shasta County Sheriffs, and they continue to contract with us for that service.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the regular calendar. Consider adopting a resolution for the county's Employee of the Month. Now therefore be resolved that Ms. Trina Nuez, Eligibility Worker 3, HHSA Regional Services, is hereby named Shasta County Employee of the Month for November 2012. And be it further resolved that Ms. Nunez leads by example. She is very knowledgeable, resilient, hardworking, diligent, and tough. Her attitude is infectious, and her trademark is a smile and a laugh. She is so supportive and always accepts a challenge with an I can, you can, or we can attitude. Ms. Nunez is an ideal role model who is always trying to improve. Our agency is fortunate to have her, and the county is benefiting from an outstanding employee.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have, yes. Melissa, you coming up?
Good morning. Melissa Janilevich, Regional Services Director with the Health and Human Services Agency. It is my great pleasure to provide some comments about Ms. Trina Nunez this morning as our Employee of the Month. Trina began her career with Shasta County in April of 2005 as an Eligibility Worker 1 and was later promoted to an Eligibility Worker 2 and then as an Eligibility Worker 3 in June of 2011. Trina believes her customers include our clients, coworkers, and other agencies. She patiently spends extra time with upset clients to determine their issues and explain what is happening with their case. She always tries to offer the client options, and as a lead worker, she's responsible for reviewing work and sees every error as an opportunity to teach staff. She is thorough with detailed information so the workers can correct the error and understand the intent of the regulations to avoid future errors. Trina is extremely hard worker and does not cut corners. Doing the right thing is important in this job, and it's not quick or easy, but Trina prides herself in doing accurate work and meeting the state's performance standards. She demonstrates to the members of her unit that quality and quantity of work can both be obtained by providing outstanding ethical service to our clients and professionalism in an eligibility career. Recently, eligibility and employment has gone to a task-based case management, which means a worker does not have specific cases assigned to them, but can do tasks on all of our public assistance cases. And this is a major change, and Trina has helped successfully lead her unit through the transition. She has piloted certain processes and invented helpful tools such as task sheets, rotation charts, and reports. Even though she's come up against many challenging problems during this endeavor, she was never discouraged. We can all see that Trina is a leader who's positive and knowledgeable, resilient, hardworking, diligent, and tough. She's an ideal role model who's always trying to improve. She's supportive and accepts challenges with an I can, you can, we can attitude. When things get stressful, she just smiles or laughs and reminds everyone that we can do this as long as we do it together. So it's my honor to congratulate our Shasta County Employee of the Month, Trina Nunez.
We're operational. Trina, if you come over here, please. Everybody wants to see you, not me, so. Trina, on behalf of my fellow Board of Supervisors, it's always a pleasure for us to recognize our employees throughout the year for the exceptional job that they do. And obviously, your peers and those who have nominated you and brought this forward to us think you're an exceptional employee. So we are extremely proud of you. We want to present you with this certificate to recognize this event, this being the Employee of the Month. And thank you for all the great service you've given us this past year. Now, we do have a couple other things for you. In this bag here is a rose pin gift set with Shasta County engraved on the pin, and then on the gift box has the Shasta County emblem. There'll be a DVD of the awards presentation courtesy of Shasta County. There's a $25 gift certificate donated by the Mid-Management Bargaining Unit to the Olive Garden Restaurant, a $25 gift certificate donated by the Department Head Forum to Outback Restaurant, and a $40 gift certificate to a local restaurant donated by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. And we certainly want to thank all those who have contributed to these certificates each month that we present those. So, Trina, a chance for you to say a few words, and if there's anybody you'd like to introduce, and you have any friends or family you want to introduce?
I have my husband and my father-in-law in the back there.
Yeah, make them stand up.
Greg Nunez and George Nunez are here to support me. I also have fellow co-workers here to support me, and I love you guys so much. And I just wanted to say that this is amazing, and it's the people I work with that makes this all possible for me, because they all work just as hard as I do, and I'm pretty much like to accept this for them too, because without them, things just wouldn't get done.
Great job, Trina. Can you have your husband come down if you want? Come on down for the photograph, if the members would step down, please. The next item is a certificate of recognition for Shastacom Systems Administrator Kathy Gailey. Sheriff, you going to go first?
Good morning, Chairman Modi and members of the board. Tom Basanko, Shasta County Sheriff. This certificate of recognition is to recognize 33 years of outstanding service for local public safety with retiring Supervisor Kathy Gailey. She has served not only for the Sheriff's Office as starting out as a dispatcher in 1978, but then when Shastacom merged to the JPA that it is, she continued to serve there. She was a dispatch supervisor in 1987 and then was hired by Shastacom, and she later became a systems administrator in 1998. In that position, she was responsible for administering various computer systems that benefit Shasta County citizens, public safety personnel, and worked with IT very closely. And these systems included computer-aided dispatch, the dialogic communicator or reverse 911, and then the computers that went into our cars for mobile data computers and computer-aided dispatching there. She also used geo webcast systems and file transfer process, and her duties were 24/7. And most of this, as you know, with technology can be very challenging, but she was self-taught on most of these systems and has done an outstanding job as systems administrator. She's assisted many entities such as public health with heat notifications for the elderly, CAL FIRE with an alternate primary public safety answering service, or PSAP as we call it, and then with Emergency Medical Services Network. She has spent 33 years doing her best to make a substantial contribution to officer safety in Shasta County, to the Sheriff's Office, and I'd like to thank her very much for her service. That 33 years has gone from a pencil and paper and a little time card punch clock to computer-aided systems, and it's not an easy job being a dispatcher. They are just as involved in the call for service as the officers are. being on the phone with the victims and hearing the officers sometimes that crack in their voice when they're in an emergency, and it can be very difficult. She's handled these emergencies very well, such as fires and floods, critical incidents, and she was there helping us in searching for murder suspects when one of our officers was killed in 1991. And she has done so with pride and excellence, and I'm very, very thankful for her service to SHASCOM and to the citizens and for the men and women of the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And
SHASCOM speaking.
yes, and her supervisor, the director, Joy Willis, is here. And Joy, would you like to say a few words? Sure.
I'm Joy Willis. I'm the current director of SHASCOM 911, and Kathy and I, well, she started before me, so it's okay that she's leaving before me, but she was my first training officer, and the lives that she has influenced, I don't even think you can count. Sheriff Pasenko is correct. Kathy worked 12 hours a day for 7 days, I believe, in the Perigo incident, without even bringing a suitcase. She just got in her car and went up to Bernie to help. And that's the kind of thing that she has had to do in her position. Sometimes we have a lot of time. Say with CAD, we worked for our computer-aided dispatch system for several years, and Kathy was always on every committee. Sometimes it's just right now. You have to make a decision this very moment, and it's going to affect citizen safety. It's going to affect officer safety. Kathy's always had that capability. She has wonderful sense. She's a good common sense person and fantastically good at learning new things. So she's going to be greatly missed, and I do thank her. And up at SHASCOM at noon, we have some more things for her. And one of them, I think, is going to be a great surprise for her. So thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Kathy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
You know, it's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to present this to you, Kathy. Kathy, I think, started just maybe a year or two after I did it. She started apparently with the Anderson Police Department, which I did not remember, but I knew she'd been at the Sheriff's Office for a number of years, because obviously the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department work together closely on a lot of issues. And I remember even as an officer and you as a dispatcher having a chance to talk about things and see each other out at different places and stuff. And I think we can't say enough words about your dedication and how hard that you have worked for not only for the Sheriff's Office, but then for SHASCOM. So in essence, for our county, for the services that you put in over the years. I've always known you've been someone who's been very dedicated to what you do, very sincere in trying to accomplish your mission, and very caring about the people who are out there. And certainly as a dispatcher, that's one of your first priorities to take care of. But come a long way since just working on the radio, because I mean, obviously, as was mentioned, when we went to an automated dispatch and consolidated dispatch as well, a lot of things had to change. And as the sheriff mentioned, I remember the old days of the 3x5 cards, and white ones were offense reports, and orange ones were arrest reports, and blue ones were accident reports, and that's how you kept track of everything. And if you wanted to go look something up, you had to go look through all the file cabinets and find that person or that case. Now it's all computerized, and you were a major player in that. I remember talking to you a few times and just seeing sometimes the frustration of all the hard work, but then also accomplishing things where it changed so much, and you had to learn so much from your original job to take over all the duties you've done at SHASCOM, and have done an extremely exceptional job. So, Kathy, congratulations. And so on behalf of my fellow supervisors, we'd like to present to you a certificate recognizing your service, not only to the county, but at SHASCOM, and your 33 years to everyone, and on your retirement. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to introduce your family?
My boyfriend, Greg K. Kippy, my mother, Betty Gailey, my sister, Brenda Gailey, that works at the Sheriff's Office. They're here with me this morning.
Thank you. we have a photograph. Let's take a
Okay.
picture or two. So if we have
All
the
right.
board come down, and we'll do that too. We're in a picture mood today. The next item, R3, is a proclamation by the Board of Supervisors. It's a proclamation for Shasta County Community Foundation Week, November 12th through the 18th, 2012. Whereas throughout our nation's history, individual Americans have voluntarily joined together to meet important needs in their communities, and this generosity and willingness to work together towards a common goal is a hallmark of the American character. And today, private voluntary associations across the country make substantial contributions to our nation's well-being in areas such as healthcare and social services, education and the arts, economic development, and environmental protection. And Shasta County is represented by and benefits from the efforts and the work of the Shasta Regional Community Foundation. And community foundations, directed by volunteers, provide effective leadership in communities throughout the United States, often supplementing or assisting in the coordination of public programs and other private services. And the Shasta Regional Community Foundation, Shasta County's charitable organizations, and concerned individuals donate their time, talent, and material resources to meet important needs in the community. Now, therefore, it be resolved that Shasta County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the week of November 12th through the 18th, 2012, as the Shasta County Community Foundation Week in Shasta County. Signed by the chair.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
And Chairman Modi, here to receive that proclamation is the chairman of the board for the Shasta Regional Community Foundation, Joe Tallarico.
Joe, if you want to come up, please. Thanks. Seems to be my day to be up here.
You're doing a good job.
Thanks, Joe. Well, Joe, I know that you are as the board of the foundation now, and I can say that I had the opportunity to be on the board back in the early 2000s for 5 years, and it's a great organization that has come a long ways from the early years. I think we were struggling to try to get to $500,000. I'm sure you make a few comments about how much money you guys have today and where you're going, but it's an organization that people need to realize is put together by community members for the community. That's exactly what the funds go for. You can donate to certain funds that are already there. You can start your own fund, and it's a way for people to give back to their community and for those dollars to be used here for a lot of different projects that are worthwhile. So, Joe, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, it's my pleasure to present you this proclamation for the Shasta Community Foundation, Regional Foundation, for this Foundation Week. So congratulations, Joe.
Thank you very much. Got it.
Well, first of all, on behalf of the foundation, I'd like to thank the board for this proclamation. As Chairman Leonard pointed out, it's been a lot of hard work, a few years behind us. Our board services, our community foundation services, nonprofits in the Shasta and Siskiyou County areas starting with that $500,000 back 10, 15 years ago. I've forgotten the time. We're now at, we have endowed funds in the area of about $20 million. And so we're an important player in the nonprofit area in both Shasta and Siskiyou counties. We wouldn't have been there. I think it's important that I recognize two staff persons that are with us. First of all, our Chief Executive Officer, Kathy Johnson. Thank you, Kathy. And our Senior Program Director and Operations Officer, Carrie Caranchi. Thank you for all their hard work. Thank you, Leonard, and appreciate it.
Our pleasure, Joe. Keep up the good work.
You will.
You know, I can't emphasize enough that it's a great opportunity for our local citizens to participate in something in your local community. And even if you just have a small amount, it doesn't have to be the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It just starts with a little and builds on it with everybody's participation. And if you get a chance, go to the website and look at the number of programs that they have out there, the number of endowment funds that they have that are serving our community very well. So thank you again, Kathy and Joe, for all the work that you do out there.
Thank you.
R4, a presentation on the Mental Health, Alcohol, and Drug Advisory Board.
Good morning. Sandra Terry. I'm chair of the Mental Health, Alcohol, and Drug Advisory Board, long title. And I'm here to give you our annual report. This happens to be for 2011, so we're kind of backing a little bit, but good information. Before I start, I'd like to thank members of our advisory board for all the time that they give month after month, serving on the board, and all their dedication. Supervisor Kehoe, thank you for all you do. You are such an added asset to our board meetings and to the cause that we carry forth. I would also like to thank the staff of Shasta County Health and Human Services for all the help that they have given us. And I would also like to thank our Annual Report Committee, Charlie Menor, Pastor Honey, and Carrie Hess. Mental health, alcohol, and drug services in Shasta County face two distinct realities. On one hand, we have inadequate resources and allocations, leading to severely limited services for a population growing in numbers and in need. Substance abuse treatment has taken some deep cuts in recent years and suffered from the elimination of Proposition 36. The department braced for a possible influx of criminal offenders scheduled to be released from the state prisons per AB 109 who would need services. On the other hand, the Mental Health Services Act funding supports several new programs to serve housing, crisis, aging adult, mental illness preventive needs in our community. Because of these complicated challenges and opportunities, serving on the Mental Health, Alcohol, and Drug Advisory Board is always very interesting and challenging. We receive reports on new and innovative ways to understand and/or address the problems that plague us, like child abuse, healthcare reform, a workplace in need of training, an outdated building, the aging clients with multiple health issues. We also saw increased community dialogue on the topics of suicide, discrimination against people living with mental illness. We are dealing with complex issues that demand complex approaches, and we are still considering ways to effectively address them. With healthcare reform on the horizon and a new focus on preventing mental illness and addiction, the delivery of mental health and alcohol and drug services may look very different in the next few years. One thing is certain, change is constant. The Mental Health Services Act. The board has played an active role in programs that are funded by the Mental Health Services Act. Throughout the year, the board has provided updated information by staff as to the progress of our PPP Positive Parenting Program, which was approved in November of '09, the Community Services Support Program, approved in March of '06, and the Workforce Education and Training Program, known as WET, approved in 11/09. In 2011, the board had the opportunity to approve the Capital Facilities and Technology Plan in January 1, 2011, and referred it to your board for final approval. This project includes a lobby redesign and various upgrades to the main county-owned mental health facility. The Technological Needs Project includes the purchase of software and hardware necessary to support our electronic health records system. The board also approved the Innovation Plan March of 2011 and referred it to your board for final approval. This plan, which included the Community Intervention Pre-Crisis Team, which is a community-based team to provide services and support to consumers and families who are experiencing circumstances without intervention could escalate into a crisis. The plan also included the Mentally Ill Offender Program, which provides peer-based services to individuals with mental illness and possible substance abuse disorders that have been released from a correctional facility to probation supervision. The board plays an active role in the Mental Health Services Advisory Committee. The chair of this committee is a member of our board. The Mental Health Services Advisory Committee provides input and guidance for planning, implementation, and oversight on the Mental Health Services Act. Board members have been very active in participating in several department committees throughout the year. Each committee has at least one person represented on that committee from our board. The Community Education Committee, the purpose of this committee is to provide information regarding mental health, drug and alcohol issues to the public, to provide information that will lead to the reduction of stigma for individuals with mental illness and substance abuse. The committee has planned several activities such as the Mental Health Resource Fair, the Art Hop exhibit, and the Anti-Stigma Discrimination Media Campaign. These meetings are held monthly at the Reading Library. Suicide Prevention Workshop. This committee meets monthly at the Reading Library. It is a local collaboration of public and private agencies concerned community members focused on reducing the amount of suicides in Shasta County. Client Services Committee. The purpose of this committee is to highlight employment, transportation, and housing resources for consumers of mental health, drug and alcohol services. Consumers are invited and encouraged to participate. The meetings have been held at Second Home. We held many special meetings during the year to provide information to our board concerning certain topics. Healthcare reform was provided to us by the president of Catholic Healthcare West. He gave a presentation on the implications of healthcare reform on healthcare delivery in Shasta County. This was a joint meeting held with Shasta County Public Health Advisory Board and the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. We also had the opportunity to tour the Shasta County Jail. The board was able to see the jail, have an informative overview of the mental health, drug, and alcohol services that are presently being offered at our county jail. We had a tour of the Good News Rescue Mission. The board was given this tour and introduced to many programs available for the chronically homeless, drug and alcohol addicted, and the homeless mentally ill in Shasta County. As our board completes this annual report for this 2011, it has become clear that we must gain a greater understanding of the many mental health, alcohol, and drug use programs and opportunities offered through the Health and Human Services Agency in this community. We have begun this process in 2012 as we have embarked upon a journey of learning and exploring existing programs within our system. One such program is AB 109, the Public Safety Realignment Program. AB 109 will supply us with the following valuable information as: number one, what are the number of inmates being released to Shasta County? 2, what percentage are homeless? 3, what percentage are mentally ill or have substance abuse concerns that we need to be aware of? AB 109 is just one of the many topics the board has taken on to gain greater understanding of all our mental health and substance abuse needs in this community. The topics we have settled on for 2012 include the Psychiatric Health Facility, AB 109, Managed Care Plan, Youth Mental Health System of Care, Adult Mental Health System of Care, External Quality Review, Public Guardianship Conservatorship, Evidence-Based Practices, and the Mental Health Services Annual Act Update. Our priorities. In order to ensure the Mental Health, Drug, and Alcohol Advisory Board meets the requirements of the California Welfare and Institutions Code, the following priorities have been set. 1, provide a forum for clients, family members, and other community members about the needs and quality of service for the mentally ill and those diagnosed with substance abuse disorders. 2, promote outreach and education about mental health and substance abuse issues and what's going on with the services. Number 3, monitor the progress of the implementation of the Mental Health Services Act, convene public hearings regarding Mental Health Services Act plans, and receive updates and progress reports regarding ongoing Mental Health Services Act funded programs. Number 4, collaborate with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, known as NAMI, Shasta County, and other community organizations in supportive services for those diagnosed with mental illness and substance abuse dependence. And number 5, to work with the Health and Human Services Director, Alcohol and Drug Administrator, and the Adult and Children's Services Directors to learn about the range of services provided. And that is the end of my report. That was just sort of an overview of the big package that you guys. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Supervisor Kehoe.
Mrs. Terry, thank you for your presentation this morning. This is truly first order work. At the risk of embarrassing you, let me say this, that Mrs. Terry, ladies and gentlemen, is an exemplar of what volunteer service is all about. Like her members on the board, she is conscientious, mindful of duty, compassionate, and tenacious in helping those most in need in our community. Thank you, Mrs. Terry.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Kehoe. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for taking it.
Okay,
Taking
any
the
questions?
time.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
appreciate it.
Good job, Kehoe. Thank you. I can't hear you.
We'll move on to our consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They may be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested person may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and consideration. And before we start anything else, I want to just make sure the public is aware that on item C7, the wording was changed after the first paren 1. It was changed from sell up to 100 tax defaulted properties during an online public auction from February 23rd, 2013, has been changed to sell up to 100 tax defaulted properties during a public auction on February 22nd, 2013. So I have no other requests for anything to be pulled.
I would like to pull C6, please.
Okay. Anyone else?
Move approval of consent, remaining of consent, please.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm voting no on C5.
Thank you. Motion passes with one vote on no, as noted. Item C6, support services.
Good morning, Michelle Schaefer, Director of Support Services. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. C6, ladies and gentlemen, is approval of a cooperative contract with the City of Tucson to provide an online surplus sales website for Shasta County. And in the paragraph having to do with discussion, we say that the purchasing department has been part of a cooperative agreement from 2007 to 2011 and would like to be included in the cooperative agreement with the City of Tucson again. So why don't you sketch for us what our experience has been with this online service?
I apologize, I don't have a whole lot of details of the history, but I can tell you that we've been participating for quite a while. We actually started with Public Works. Whenever we had leftover equipment or things, we would put it on this site and other public agencies could purchase, but the public can also purchase these items that we're no longer using, either because they've become discontinued or it was purchased for a project, that the project was finished. Whenever we have cars from our fleet program that have run out of useful life for the agency, however, someone else may find life for it. We've put vehicles out there, and we actually usually get I've seen anywhere between $500 and $1,500 more than if we just took it to a public auction, or we've even tested it out with some sites with other car dealers. Some of the car dealerships have sites where different car dealers will buy among each other, and we find that it's been very beneficial for the county, and that's why we're asking to renew this. They've had to change some items because of some law changes in California, and that's what we've put, that's one of the things that we addressed in here, but we have found it to be very, very successful for the county.
Second question. It says here, the fee is currently a 7% of the gross sale of the item sold,
Yes.
and all fees will be covered by revenue generated by the sales of the item. Do we pay, does the buyer pay sales tax on that transaction? And if so, does that sales tax revert to Shasta County?
That part I don't know. I think it's based on where they purchase it, because it's a cooperative with several different states, and it depends on where they live. They have to follow all of those state laws, and however the sales tax and all of those property taxes or anything like that, that is one of the things that they had to cover with the legal change, because there were, like with the Amazon.com, if they purchased it from a different place, they didn't necessarily have to pay sales tax. All of that law is what's covered in here. So that's kind of what they've changed. And so it'll be whatever the law requires and how the sales tax and where the sales tax goes, all of that's covered.
Okay. Final question. Under alternatives, the board may choose to stay with local auction agencies. That implies that we're already with local auction agencies?
We use, Orland has a local public auction for some of our fleet vehicles. That's the closest that I know of, but we still find we usually, unless it's something that we just can't get sold on this, we usually find that this actually gives us more money. We don't have to pay the transportation fees to get it down to Orland, all of that. But we do continue to use Orland from time to time, but those are just vehicles. We can sell just about anything on this public auction site that we can't necessarily. We have a couple places where we can do furniture, but again, we still find this is a better deal because we have a wider audience using this site.
So the rest of that sentence reads, the board may choose to stay with local auction agencies. However, that is not recommended because approval of this action will allow the county to have direct control over the sale of the items. Well, if we sell something locally, we can establish a reserve price, can't we? I mean, we have direct control over our items.
And we have with a couple of the agencies, but some of the places that used to do that for us are no longer in business.
Oh.
And so it depends on who it is, like the place where we sell the furniture. We haven't been able to set that. It really just depends on how they operate their business. Again, like in the car, with the cars, when we tried with some of the local dealers, we weren't able to set the reserve price. But with this, we were, and that's why we were actually able to get more money doing that.
And this system applies to all manner of surplus property that the county has?
Yes.
Thank you.
Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Kehoe, and Chair Modi. Now, you heard that, didn't you? Supervisor Kehoe, I appreciate your bringing up especially the question of the sales tax, something near and dear to my own heart. I brought this up in past meetings in referring to construction projects that are approved by Shasta County. If this was a directive of the Shasta County Board of Supervisors for all departments to look for opportunities to have sales tax based in Shasta County, large construction projects, if they were required to have an office in the county and report their purchases through the county, this could mean millions of dollars collectively over the years to Shasta County itself. I know it seems like a little thing here, but if it were a direction of the board for all departments to look at these opportunities, collectively we would generate a lot more dollars. Where this came from, I had reported on in the past that it came from Colusa County. They had an $80 million cogeneration project, and they made the simple requirement in approval of the project for the office to be located in the county, and they generated, I don't know the figure, I did have the figure at that time, I reported it to the board, but needless to say, it was a substantial amount of money rather than simply allowing the products to be purchased and sales tax paid in another entity. So I'm just bringing it up again because you provide the opportunity. We really should consider that as a direction from the board. Thank you.
Move approval of the staff recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Under discussion, I'll just add that a couple things. One, when I was at the police department, we went through a process very similar to this all things you said, Ms. Schaefer, are absolutely correct. We found more buyers, received more money back, and we're able to get rid of more equipment than we ever were to do at our local auctions. And the other thing, as far as, and I recognize your point, Supervisor Ball, on a big project, on this particular thing, it's sort of the chicken versus the egg. I mean, you might be able to sell it locally and get more sales tax, but you're going to get less money for it. So in the end, it may help the county on the sales tax side a little bit, but it will probably hurt that particular department more on the general fund dollars that they don't get back when they sell off of something we have a bigger audience. And you're right, we found particularly like on vehicles, the local auction, you got $300 for a vehicle, and you get maybe $2,000 or something like that when you sell them. So it is a great process.
Just to clarify, I'm not talking about selling it locally. I'm talking about establishing the point of sale locally. By contract, that can be established as part of the negotiated contract, and it can be paid locally and designated locally, even if not auctioned locally. That's up to the contract negotiation point.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Schaefer. The Shasta County Board of Supervisors will recess and convene as the Shasta Joint Powers Financing Authority. The Shasta County Board of Supervisors does not receive any additional compensation or stipend for acting as the Shasta Joint Powers Financing Authority. We have one item on some refunding of bonds. Ms. Palin?
Good morning, B.B. Palin, County Fiscal Chief. This is an opportunity for the county to refinance the bonds on the Shasta Administration Building. Interest rates haven't been this low since the 1950s. We'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to refund the bonds. I know we talked to you about this when we adopted the budget and how important it is to the general fund that we realize these savings. This item and the companion item for the Board of Supervisors authorizes us to go forward with the refunding. We've been working with a financial advisor in the Bay Area. We have Bond and Disclosure Council as well who've been working on this. We met last week with Moody's to sell the county. I think that Mr. Lees did an excellent job, as did staff, our elected officials, the auditor controller, treasurer, tax collector, and assessor participated by conference call. Mr. Lees, myself, and Angela Davis, we were actually there in person meeting with the chief financial analyst with Moody's. It's been a number of years, actually, since we sold the original bonds that we had met with a rating agency. I think that, I don't know if Mr. Lees would like to say anything about that meeting. They were very impressed with our conservative financial policies, and Mr. Lees did a great job, I think, of selling the county as a sort of a regional hub as well. So this is just a great opportunity. We'll
So you got a better deal?
It could.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll actually have the results of that. It takes 2 or 3 weeks, and so that was the question that Supervisor Kehoe asked me. He said, well, how'd you do? Did we make any money on it? And we'll know specifically within a couple weeks exactly the results of that meeting. But the point that we were trying to establish is that we are a little different than other cities and counties. And keep in mind, Moody's, who are generating bond ratings for all these cities that are going bankrupt, counties that are struggling and having difficulty, we came in with a significant different approach in that billing Shasta County, because it's true, being kind of the hub of the North State and the regionalization that has been taking place here, and it wasn't just talk. I mean, we shared actual physical data that spoke to the services that Shasta County is providing for the other counties and how the feds are looking at us to do more. And so we were actually to share and tell a very good story. And a lot of it comes back to the board and the conservative nature of this board and not putting us in additional debt.
Supervisor Haas.
Well, I just wanted to say we're going to save $300,000 a year. And the other question, is the tobacco settlement money keeping up with the payment? Not quite, huh?
No, it's not, and actually that will help because there is an imbalance between what we are receiving and the debt service on this building. Now, the flip side of that is, tobacco education is doing its job, and
Well, that's
fewer
good.
people are buying cigarettes, so
That's good.
that's also an advantage that we can't overlook. But yes, this will definitely help to make the debt service payments.
But originally, we thought that it
did.
would. But it's good that people aren't smoking as much either, so.
And just one clarification, we're not saving you 300,000 yet. We have an opportunity to
Yeah,
save.
We have the
Correct,
opportunity to.
correct.
Pleasure of the board.
And this item is going to require a roll call vote, so Linda Meckelberg is going to
Yeah.
take care of that.
We still have to move. And
Yes.
You have to,
Yeah.
okay, make a move and then.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Lees and your staff for looking at every opportunity.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
We begin with the motion maker, go to the second, and then in district order. So the motion maker is Supervisor Hawes, District 3.
Yes.
Supervisor Baugh, District 2.
Yes.
Supervisor Kehoe, District 1.
Yes.
Supervisor Modi, District 2.
Yes.
Supervisor Hartman, District 4.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palin. If you just stick around for a second. The Shasta Joint Powers Financing Authority will adjourn and reconvene as the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. I'm going to skip over R5 and go to the companion item R6 first. Ms. Palin?
R6 is the companion, which has to be adopted by the Board of Supervisors. It also is just approving the form of the documents that will be used to now work on the refunding of the bonds. And again, it will require a roll call vote.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the roll call vote?
Motion maker, Supervisor Baugh, District 5.
Yes.
Supervisor Hawes, District
Yes.
3. Supervisor Kehoe, District
Yes.
1. Supervisor Modi, District 2.
Yes.
Supervisor Hartman, District 4.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palin. Mr. Lees?
I would just be remiss if I did not also thank Ms. Palin for the work she put into this. When we were working on transferring and doing the equity exchange with the courthouse, it was a very cumbersome, lengthy, and difficult process to undertake. And there were times when we scratched our head and said, why are we doing this? And then the answer was it was because it's the right thing to do. And when we had completed that process, I mentioned to Ms. Palin, what are you going to do with all your free time now? And she said, you mean my Sunday nights and weekends? And sure enough, she actually took this project on, and this is a significant amount of work and background data that had to be collected and put forward to make a significant and strong presentation to Moody's. We're playing with the big boys and girls there when you're making a presentation to them. And she did an outstanding job. It was in addition to the normal assignments, obviously, that go through. So I really appreciate her willing to take this on. And again, she's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And it is going to save our future generations money here in Shasta County because of this path forward. So thank you to BB.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Ms. Palin and all the other staff who worked on this as well.
Okay, thank you.
R5, Administrative Office and Board of Supervisors reports. Mr. Lees. Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Kehoe first, since I missed him last time and you made a.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. I attended the Shasta County Mental Health, Alcohol, and Drug Advisory Board last week. It was an outstanding meeting, and one of the high points of that meeting was a presentation by Mr. Dean True on the adult system of care presentation. It was successful and it was outstanding for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was cogent, it was on the mark, and it was short. And so that presentation is upstairs on the credenza, and I invite you to review it. That concludes my observations.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. I attended LAFCO Executive Board meeting where we outlined the agenda for upcoming hearing this Thursday in regards to a significant change request from the Community Services District in Fall River Mills. Also attended a great, again, and I can't thank our veterans enough, especially appreciate the recognition of their services at the Shasta Lake Veterans Parade. I attended with Mr. Lees and Supervisor Hartman and Sheriff Pasenko. I just can't say enough. When you have the opportunity to see that massive United States flag carried by a dozen folks as it kind of gently waves along the main street in Shasta Lake, it is overwhelming. I can see it in my mind's eye right now, and I can't think of anything better to say thank you to those who have given their all. I am attending RCRC Executive Board meeting. If there's anything that this board or staff would like to have us carry on behalf of Shasta County or see get on an RCRC future agenda, please let me know. And I'd also like to say, since we do not have a meeting next week, blessed Thanksgiving to everyone in the community.
Supervisor Hartman.
I'll pass, thank you.
Supervisor Haas.
Thank you. I will be attending CSAC right after Thanksgiving down in Long Beach, along with Mr. Lees. And Pam's going to attend too and start her career here. So this will be an exciting and my last one. So looking forward to that. And I just can't believe how we get through an election and then all the fallout we get afterwards. Doesn't it just amaze everyone how it can all be kept trapped in until the day after? That's all I have to say.
And I'll report that I had the opportunity to present a certificate on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Kehoe invited me to attend the Reading Rotary Veterans meeting that they had last week. Ray Williams is their senior veteran. He's 95 years old. They made a very nice presentation to him. It was covered well by Channel 7 and also by the Reading Record Searchlight. Both had nice little plays on Mr. Williams. He's an outstanding individual. If you ever get a chance to meet him, you should take a few minutes and talk to him. He has some tremendous stories about World War II and his times. He served on a transport ship, and he came under fire a number of times and lost a lot of friends. Yeah, it was a great event, and thank you, Supervisor Kehoe, for allowing me to be there on behalf of the board. I attended the Sierra Sac Valley EMS board meeting last week. I would like to report that currently there are 10 counties in this association. Yolo County is considering withdrawing. It appears to me that there's some agencies, EMS agencies, that are allowing a sort of a franchise fee to be charged, where they charge like $10 per ambulance run, and the counties collect that and use it for training of their fire paramedics and stuff like that. We do not do that in our EMS, and I think Yolo County wants to collect that fee, and so they may be leaving us to go to some of the other counties. It's going to come under a lot of fire from the other counties are with this fee, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, just shouldn't really affect us too much. If they leave, they have to pay certain fees and things for their investment into the EMS Joint Powers Authority that we have. So, and then finally, on Sunday, I attended the Northern California Veterans Cemetery ceremony for veterans. It was a great event, and Supervisor Hartman was there, as well as I saw the sheriff, and our local police chiefs and the fire chief. And as you mentioned, Supervisor Ball, another great opportunity to recognize our veterans and the service that they give to our country. All right, we'll move on to, one last thing. Just as was mentioned, we will not have a meeting next week due to Thanksgiving, and the following week there are members away at the CSAC training, so we will not have meetings until the first week of December. Moving on to R7, Public Works. Mr. Minturn.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board, Pat Minturn, Public Works Director. Before you today is an item related to, two items really, related items, related to waste collection in the county. This is the curbside collection, commercial collection, and operation of transfer stations. The two items are first related to code changes proposed, and the second is a contract with USA Waste for collection in the Valley area. With respect to the codes, the county has an elaborate set of county codes, and sometimes over the years actual practice changes and the codes remain the same. And in this particular case, the codes date back to the 1980s, it appears. Back then, waste collection was considered a public health issue. Really, it was a matter of getting the waste from the home to a dump, and you dumped it there, and that was that. These were much simpler days, and avoiding waste accumulation in properties. And so the code assigned this duty to the county health officer. And I called up Andrew Deckert, the current county health officer, and he's been here 20 years, and I've been here 20 years, and he doesn't have any recollection, nor do I, of the county health officer actually being involved in these activities. I think back in the 1980s is when the change came, was when the franchise agreements began, when we actually had franchise haulers. At that time, Public Works, I know, took over, and probably from then on, it's been all Public Works. And so the proposed code changes would bring consistency between practice and the codes by assigning this to Public Works. And I've talked to Dr. Deckert, and he has no objections. Also in the old codes was a solid waste review panel. I think this was probably created about the same time that the franchise agreements were. This was to be an appeals board. In practice, near as we can tell, it never met, and there were no folks appointed to the board. The board was to consider complaints about collection. Really, those sorts of complaints are better handled at the staff level and escalating up to the board, of course, if necessary, because it's a timeliness thing. And so you don't want to, if you have a complaint that somebody didn't pick up my garbage this morning, you don't want to hear, well, there will be a meeting of the panel in 2 months and we can discuss it then. Rather, you want satisfaction now, you want your garbage picked up now, and that's how it's been handled. And so staff recommends modification of the code to do away with the panel while maintaining, of course, appeal to county staff, and then it would go to CEO Larry Lees and ultimately to this board, and beyond that it would be a dispute between us and the hauler. We've always been able to resolve differences. Normally it's a matter of a minor detail of where a garbage can goes. So that is our recommendation. A third item on the code changes is waste classification. Again, back in the 1980s, there were standard nomenclature, standard terms that were used to refer to various types of waste, and there was a difference between garbage and refuse and so forth. Those have become antiquated now. The Integrated Waste Management Board and the Water Quality Control Board have more standardized terms that are now in use, and we recommend that we update the code to reflect that. And also minor issues regarding the setting of rates and fees, updating the language to reflect what we've done for at least 20 years. That concludes the code change recommendations. Then on the waste collection franchise agreements, the board will recall that for the last 9.5 years, we've had franchise agreements with Bernie Disposal in the Intermountain area and with Anderson Cottonwood Disposal down here in the valley. The valley area being everything except the 3 cities, of course, and a hauler from Siskiyou County that comes down into the Castle Craigs area and the Intermountain area. Everything else, Cottonwood, Palisadro, Millville, out to Platina, up to almost to Lakehead, I believe, to Lakehead, is handled by this franchise area. The existing hauler, Anderson Cottonwood Disposal Services, which has been rolled into the larger parent company of Waste Management, which is USA Waste of California, has provided good service, in our opinion and in the opinion of the customers. We looked at polling data to consider how their service has been, and we find that 92% of the customers say they would like to do business with this company in the future. That was done by J.D. Powers and Associates, very reputable polling firm. We looked at the waste rates. We find that the fees that are being collected are right in line. There's a table in your staff report. Everybody charges about $26 a month for a 96-gallon container. Some a little more. Glenn County's a little higher. Redding's a little less. Redding is a little less because you've got a compact service area. In Redding, a half-acre parcel is a very, very large parcel, whereas in the unincorporated area, a half-acre parcel is a very small parcel. So the competitive advantages there give Redding a few bucks a month less, but it's really still competitive. We also see that USA Waste is in the best position to serve customers. They have these accounts now. They have shown that they will collect in all weather conditions. It's easy to collect waste in Cottonwood as it is in Reading, but when you go up into snow country, in Shingletown, when you get out into the very rural areas, when you're on dirt private roads, it becomes more difficult, and USA Waste has really shown that they can do that. Regulatory compliance, I'm not aware of any regulatory problems that have beset waste management. So with these in mind, we thought that perhaps it might be prudent to continue this business relationship. Of course, that's not a done deal by any means, but it was something that we thought might be worth discussing with them before this existing franchise agreement expires. And so we entered into negotiations, and there were certain things that the county wished to improve upon, and there were some things that the hauler, their existing practices perhaps could be improved upon, and so we met and we discussed. And one is transfer station operations. There are 14 places in this county where you can get rid of a truckload of garbage, and that's really a lot. That's unprecedented. And this contract will continue all of those except the Enterprise transfer station. The Enterprise transfer station is so redundant to the city's transfer station, which is a mile away, and it's equally accessible from the Airport 44 interchange. If you're getting off that interchange, if you go left to the city's transfer station or right to Enterprise, it's the same distance. Enterprise is an older, obsolete, old burned up landfill. It just doesn't make sense to operate two identical facilities side by side, and they're not identical. The city's facility has household hazardous waste collection, has covered collection areas, has complete processing for recyclables, and it has haul trucks to haul to the landfill, and they're cheaper. So the proposed agreement would close that down. It would also free up $50,000 a year that can be used for Don't Trash Shasta and other efforts. I think those far outweigh the impacts of closing down a redundant transfer station. $50,000 a year, each year, that would come to fund garbage dumping in the woods enforcement, the district attorney's office, public relations campaigns to discourage illegal dumping, to encourage people to report illegal dumping. $50,000 a year in these difficult times, probably the Don't Trash Shasta campaign, it will be difficult to sustain without some sort of augmentation. Compressed natural gas, converting the entire fleet. This is something the hauler brought up, but it's something that would be a great benefit to our citizens. Converting all the garbage trucks to compressed natural gas and installing a compressed natural gas fueling facility at the waste management staging area. This is a $7 million proposition. Compressed natural gas is not only burns cleaner, but it's also quieter. I didn't know that the trucks are significantly quieter. And it's renewable, it's sustainable. The United States suddenly has this huge glut to the point where the price of natural gas has plummeted. And I believe this is a win-win opportunity. With the 10-year agreement, they can make that investment, and we can get that many tens or hundreds of thousands of gallons of diesel that doesn't get burned every year in this valley. And lastly, rate controls. When we went through the contract, in the past, the hauler was entitled to separate adjustments for tipping fee increases at the landfill and the CPI. We reworked that to where now basically he's stuck with a CPI. If there's an extraordinary increase in tipping fees at the landfill, he may be allowed to some compensation for that in a certain year. But by and large, this will accelerate only at the rate of the CPI. And of course, this is a long contract. It rolls in all the existing provisions, free disposal days, all the customer service provisions that are in the existing contract. And so staff recommends approval. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
Supervisor Haas?
Yes, do they transfer to their own landfill?
No, they do not.
They go to Reading then, or ours?
Yes. As you may be aware, the parent company owns the Anderson Solid Waste Landfill. They could haul to that landfill and potentially internalize their operations. Staff is of the opinion that for the long-term viability, we're probably better off to continue to haul to West Central, and they are required through what's called flow control in this agreement. For the duration of this agreement, they will be required to haul to our joint city-county landfill, West Central.
The other question, we're going to close Enterprise, right?
Yes, sir.
I've been noticing for a long time, especially in the last couple of weeks, that they burn there on Sunday. Did you know that?
I was not aware
There's
of
smoke
that.
coming up from there about every weekend. I'm pretty sure that's where it's coming from.
We also have a lot of scavenging problems. Every day at 5 o'clock, you'll see scavengers waiting to go in there as soon as the attendant is out to go through the bins. We have problems with illegal dumping.
And
the
on the
neighbors-
way in there, there's a lot of illegal dumping, so.
Yes, the
That'll
city,
be good, I think.
that's on city streets. The hauler has been collecting some of that waste. The city staff doesn't appreciate it, and I think the neighbors would view this as very much a civic improvement from their standpoint.
No, good point.
Supervisor Baugh?
Thank you, Chair Modi. And Mr. Minturn, thank you and your staff for going through a contract and finding ways to improve it for the benefit of the public, and also finding ways to reach agreement with the contractors so that they can, after all, they are in the business of earning a living, and it has to work both ways to their benefit, doesn't it? Several years ago, we had the subject of an opportunity for Waste Management to apply for an increased fee, and I was very outspoken and negative in regards to the complaints. So let me be equally as outspoken and complimentary today. This is many years later. I will say that whether it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease or whether it's simply the company doing a better job, which I believe that they are attempting to do in responding to complaints, from my perspective, they have. I'll give a couple of them. Last year, we had extreme snow conditions in Shingletown. You heard Mr. Minturn mention that. And even the residents had not cleared their driveways to be able to get out of their driveways, and yet garbage trucks made it through. I heard again and again from the residents that every single garbage can was picked up. To me, that was extraordinary. I don't know how they got the garbage trucks through, but they did, and the residents were still digging out. So my hat was off to you last year. Recently, I had a situation in Cottonwood, and generally it's easy to pick up in Cottonwood, as you mentioned. This involved a client who was disabled and was asking her county supervisor if I could help get her trash out from her home to the collection site. And within literally a few days, the local head of Waste Management had sent a person down there. I believe he went down there personally as well. I received a contact saying, thank you, all is taken care of. And it's, to me, it's the little things that a resident, a person that has their garbage can out in the corner appreciates, that they have the service that they're paying for. And while I'm on the service that they're paying for, it appears to me that you've done a great job of holding down prices, which, the bottom line, we all care about what we pay, don't we? So you put it all together, service and a reasonable fee. Now, there may be more areas we could have improved on, but to me, you've tackled a lot of generally huge areas with great success, so I thank you for that.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Mr. Minturn, two questions. Question number one, please. Will you describe the recycling efforts under the terms of this contract?
That is a fairly broad question. The hauler is required to
Bi-weekly residential curbside recycling.
Would you take the podium?
Come up
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. John Heath, Supervising Engineer, Department of Public Works. Waste Management provides bi-weekly residential commercial recycling. They also provide commercial recycling services for commercial. And they provide recycling at the transfer stations as well.
And so they have a separate waste wheeler for recyclables. It's commingled. They dump all the recyclables in there, so you don't have to sort your cans and your bottles separately. And they have a processing facility in there. I understand they've been in negotiations with the city of Reddings to try and share their MRF and run theirs through process theirs through the same facility. But this contract requires them to process.
Good. Thank you. Question number two. Do passenger vehicles here in the county use CNG?
They may. The problem would be obtaining a supply.
Well, and that goes to my question. On bullet point number 2 on page 3, it states that relative to CNG, that this will entail constructing a fueling facility. Is it the intent of the company to make that facility available to the public?
That was not the intent of the negotiations. That was something that perhaps could be negotiated in the future. Our thinking was that this is a waste contract. The purpose is to collect the waste. Certainly there are citizens who would like to have compressed natural gas vehicles. I understand that that can be done from a resident. A residence can fuel if they have natural gas. It's not easy. It has to be set up there. But the idea of establishing a public CNG fueling facility, while that may serve good public goals, staff was of the opinion that that doesn't really constitute solid waste, which is what we're doing here. And in effect, we would be subsidizing those vehicles by building that facility with solid waste funds. And that's something that perhaps the private sector would be better suited to do.
And I will add, there are some, you do see some like trucks, pickups, and that kind of stuff that do have compressed gas, but yeah, it is pretty rare. Supervisor Haas.
Well, just one other comment. You mentioned pickup and all-weather aspects. I would hope that they wouldn't pick up when we have one of those 70 or 80 mile an hour winds, because when they pick that can up to dump it in there, the garbage goes about a half a mile away, and then everybody's got to go pick it up. I can remember one incident of that, and it took the containers 300 or 400 yards too. So got to use a little bit of common sense, and it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen here. So just let them think about that. I mean, it can be a huge mess because it's all done mechanically, and there's no control when that lid tips over up there where everything's going to go when the wind's blowing hard.
A few years ago, the Waste Management told me that they had somewhat modified their apparatus up there to shelter the can a little more, but certainly it still can.
Well, when it blows that hard, it's hard to shelter anything.
Yeah. On the other hand, if the cans are left out there, they may blow over by themselves, and we're in a disaster situation sometimes. But I think your point is well taken, that they're
Wait a few
sensitive
hours
to
till
it.
the wind lightens up.
Mr. Minturn, under the senior rate, what size hauler is that?
That is a 64-gallon can, and you need to be 65 or older.
And are there representatives from Waste Management here today?
Yes, there are. Matt Fryer is our local representative, who we've been dealing with throughout, and a couple of his associates are here as well. The board will recognize Matt. He's been our representative for many years.
And Mr. Fryer, if you'd like to say anything, we'll give you a quick opportunity.
Good morning, Supervisors. We would love to have the opportunity to continue to service the county. Obviously, we've been here for years. We've got 44. Supervisor Baugh touched on. We're in the business to make a living. I've got 44 employees there, and this is a large contract for us, obviously. To Supervisor Keogh's point, we do offer residential recycling, commercial recycling. That's all part of the rate. That's the direction of our company. We need to recycle more, less into the landfill. And to your second point about the CNG, our intention is to put a fueling station in for the public use. Long term, it makes sense for us. The cost associated with it is minimal, so our intention is to put one in that can eventually be used for the public.
Good. Thank you. And Mr. Fryer, a couple of comments I wanted to make, because one is on the senior rate. I think it would be helpful to the seniors out there, is just a little more advertisement that senior rate's available maybe once in a while in your newsletter or something.
Right.
And then the other thing I wanted to comment on, it talked about the satisfaction ratings and stuff like that, and I will say that to your employees, when I see them driving through my neighborhood, they are always very courteous. They're very friendly. Most times they'll wave to you and stuff. They just seem to recognize that they're out there among the public, and they take the time to make you feel like you know them when they drive by and stuff. My only complaint is when they back up in my driveway and run over my newspaper about once a week. But anyway,
I'll make a note that they don't
He's got to
reverse
get out
course
there
now.
earlier to get his newspaper.
I'm paying them extra for that, Chair Modi.
Probably do. I'll have to get out there about 5 o'clock,
Yeah, okay.
Supervisor Oz, to make that one. So.
Yeah, I guess you would.
Anyway, I just, they are great employees, and so you should be very
Appreciate that.
proud of them. Supervisor Kehoe.
Question on your cost profile concerning the monthly residential collection rates. I noticed that you have a special, or what appears to be a special rate for seniors, $879. How does that work?
Seniors can contact the office, and in the past, it had always been that you had to show proof of, age verification at the local office. And if you were 65 or older, we would put you into the senior rate program, give you the smaller of the two cans, which is a 64-gallon can. Most seniors are already in that can, so it's just a matter of cutting their rate down. We've gone away from making sure that every employee or every customer comes down to the office and shows proof. I mean, we're taking folks at their word. We don't want to have to make them always come down here. But really, all it is a contact to the office, and we try to verify as much as possible. But we're taking folks at their word.
That's pretty impressive. Thank you.
Unfortunately for you, Mr. Kehoe, they don't service the area where you live because you're in the city.
This is true.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer.
Well, I'll move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? I will add our discussion. Thank you, Mr. Minturn, for all the work you've done on this project, and Mr. Fryer, for you and your company for the hard work on that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Minturn.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. The Board of Supervisors will recess to closed session to discuss items with our labor negotiator. Estimated time is 1 hour. After the conclusion of closed session, any reportable action will be reported in open session. We are recessed.